African royalty, animal sacrifice, polygamy, being disowned by your own family, and being saved by supernatural grace. Maribelle Djoussi is on Spirit Spire starting right now.
Broadcasting from the Cathedral of the Assumption in Louisville, Kentucky, this is Spirit and Spire. And now, here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Spirit Spire. I'm your host, Erik Huff, and joined with me, as always, are Bryan Cain.
Hello.
Isaac Fox.
Hey there.
And John Sohl.
Hey everyone.
Today we're really excited to have a special guest, Maribelle Djoussi. Maribelle is a mother, a wife, and a writer, speechwriter, as well as author of several books. So, Mrs. Djoussi, welcome to Spirit and Spire.
Thank you so much, and I'm very honored to have you guys. And I feel blessed to be here today and to talk about my faith journey and my story. I'll be honored to share what I've been through since I gave my life to Christ, and even going forward, what my life is taking a different tour. What was meant for my harm, as we speak, He's using it for my good. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Amen. So before we get started, we know you have a fantastic faith journey, and even just the bits of it that I've heard have touched me greatly. But let's go back to the beginning. And so you are from West Cameroon. For people who aren't geography nerds, who maybe don't know, give us some context. Where is West Cameroon?
First of all, Cameroon is in Central Africa, and it's bordered by Congo in the south, and then you have Nigeria on your west, and then on the east you have Central Republic of, they call it Republique Centrafricaine in French, and in the north they have Chad. Chad. But it usually referred to as Afrique en miniature in French because almost every African culture can see a part of it in Cameroon. They have mix of more than 250 language.
Wow.
And West Cameroon alone, the Bamileke tribe are technically descendant of one person, the Leke man who was apparently a descendant. I don't have the true facts on that, but he was descendant of a pharaoh who was being probably kicked out because something happened and he probably admired the wife of the king or something like that. And they were chased out of the palace. But he went south, and then with the Islam coming and pursued him, he went from the Egypt further south down to the actual Fumban in West Cameroon, for those who don't know it, and then cross over, find what is today West Cameroon. But Cameroon has, if you go like the big West Cameroon, it has two parts, the French and the English one. The English was initially part of Nigeria, and the French is the descendant of the King Leke, like I was talking about. That's why we say Bamileke, people of Leke. That's what Bamileke means. Okay. I mean descendant of Leke. And that's another story because the German heard something and wrote down whatever. But the story on the West Cameroon, you have the Anglophone speaking zone, and then you have the French speaking zone. The Anglophone speaking zone are like adding piece to Cameroon. They didn't really belong there before. It was because the European colonization, they sat there and just drew some map anyhow, and hey, now you're in Cameroon. Now you're in now you're Congolese or something. So that's what happened. But mainly the descendant of the West French-speaking area, they connect one way or the other because they share the same ancestor. And that goes the same from the village where I came from. I'm from Banswa, Cameroon, and at Banswa we are the same. The Banswa, Bameka, Bamlungum, and Bamuju are the children of one king, one queen. And Mafochan, we usually refer to her as the Mother Queen because she was one of the princess coming down in France, her own kingship with her children, her sons who were all hunters. So I'm descendant of that. So that's West Cameroon, and somehow with the confusion of the language coming in, and they start speaking different language, and so West Cameroon alone has at least 100 languages.
Wow.
So you are technically royalty.
Yes.
Then.
Technically, descendant of royal families on both sides, mother and father.
And you're mentioning the English and the French-speaking parts of Cameroon. And then original colonization was from the Portuguese, who gave the name Cameroon, correct?
That's correct.
Which, this is interesting, means shrimp. Right? What's
Yes.
the story behind that?
Yes.
It's like camarones in
From
Spanish.
my history class, the explorer, the people just like in America, the guy who
Christopher Columbus.
discovered America. There's this Spain or Portuguese person that came down in Vuri, and saw Vuri is a river just like Ohio River here in Louisville, and
Okay.
it has a lot of shrimp in it. So he used that as a reference every time he wanted to talk about that particular people that he found, that land that he found. He would say the people by the river of the shrimp, Cameroon. So and then later on, Camaros, which is shrimp, and then moving on, the German took over after the share the cake in Europe. They were sharing Africa like if it was their piece of cake or something, and Cameroon and Togo became German properties.
Okay.
And then from German lost the war, First World War One. They lost to the other one, the two groups that were
The
fighting
Allies,
each other. Yes, the other ally. And
Right.
the agreement was, if you lose Alsace-Lorraine, then you lose your colony in Africa.
Okay.
If you win all of it. So that French was on the other side, they won, and so French and Great Britain back then took over Cameroon from the
Germany.
German. Yes.
Okay.
So that's the journey.
Wow.
The missionary, though, on the spiritual aspect of it, after that Cameroon guy came in, that Portuguese that gave the name Cameroon came, missionary came and talked about Jesus and preached the gospel. Some believe, mostly people from the central part of the country and people from the south, they truly believe. The north most of them were already like Islamic, but they believe more in the faith of Abraham. So and Ishmael.
Okay.
Right.
So they already believe in Allah, which is they're
Right.
serving the same God, just a little different. But the West Cameroon, on the other hand, were rooted more in tradition. And when you look at it, it's more like the Old Testament. Remember how Jacob wrestled against Gabriel, and then he poured oil on the stone and said, God lives here. And people start going there to pray. It's exactly like that in Cameroon, even as we speak, to date. So they're still doing that. And then when the missionary from Europe came and trying to tell them, look, you don't have to do that anymore. Christ came. The same story in Israel happened. No, we don't know him. Our ancestors worship God this way. You can't tell us that we're going to, just like Jesus in the Bible was rejected. He was rejected.
It's just helping people connect the dots between Abraham and Jesus, and that doesn't always happen.
Yes. They still do worship with the poor wood and do sacrifice on the stone. Just like
Still do animal sacrifices
yes.
and all
And
that.
they still
Whoa,
do,
that's cool.
Yes, they still do goats, shrimp, chicken.
Intense.
Depends on how rich you are. If you're rich, you can do a goat. You can even do a cow if you're really rich. So, but some did believe though, and they actually got baptized.
Yeah.
So-
Are they sacrificing to one god or many different gods?
They got different god. It's like in every single family there is a tree that they call the tree of God. Quote, that's what they call it. From what God revealed to me, he showed me that those gods that I worship, they are all under me. They are not really worshiping me. That's and when he showed me that, I was like, wait, what? So are you telling me that these trees that they have been growing to all these years, she said, then the Lord said that's where your problem is coming from, foundational problem from your ancestors, because they worship these little gods. Every single family in the Bamileke tribe has that tree planted in their yard or their backyard or somewhere in the family property where they go and offer sacrifice. At the family meeting, every year they do this. If you have an accident, they will tell you have to go to there and offer sacrifice. If you're being sick, they will tell you to go there and make sacrifice and all that. But I'm like, there is a problem with that though. You're doing this sacrifice, but when you come back, you don't see your brother as yourself. You don't love your neighbor as yourself. How will God honor that? And I question this because I come from a polygamy family, and I see all of them as my siblings, but not all of them see me as their own. And like, if you can do as many sacrifices as you like, that's why God.
But if it doesn't lead to internal transformation,
if it depends on the way you're living, meaning you see me coming, you see me, you only think about me. Djoussi is the daughter of Therese, so she's not my sister.
So let's get some context too here.
Yeah.
So let's draw back a little bit. So we got a little bit of the geography, a little bit of the culture, a lot of the history, but let a lot of the faith too. Yes. But let's focus. Let's hone back in on you and growing up. So just day to day. What was your family like? What was it like where you lived? And maybe a little bit of the history, more specific to your family. And what was that like?
I gave the general family, like, we are descendant of the family case, because I wanted to grow to that lineage, kingship lineage.
Yeah.
When you're from kingship lineage, if you're like the 3rd degree or 2nd degree king, you're required by tradition to have at least 2 wives. If you're the village king, superior one, you're required to have at least 5 wives. It's the requirement, and the law recognizes
minimum 5.
Minimum 5.
Okay.
The law requires you.
And the law actually, the legal law, meaning the paper law, actually also allow you to do that. Polygamy is recognized in Cameroon, but I don't practice that. I always been against it since I was a child, because I have a book coming up about polygamy, my life journey, from my great grandmother's 7th generation back. They all grew up in polygamy family, and I see all this destruction happening, and just like in the Bible, betrayal, deceit, and all this. Why do we keep doing the same thing over and over? It's destroying children. They don't know. I take the example of my great-grandfather from the mother's side, King Fossop. He had 68 wives, but he died without a single son. The reason they were doing that because, according to them, they want to make sure the king has an heir. But it's God that gave the heir.
Right.
The successor, a man that will take over from him. That's what I mean by a heir. But 68. But each time they deliver sons, they all die. Wow. Only the girl will live. The son will die. Only the girl will see. From that story, I'm like, do we have to? My question to all my kings. I love our culture. I love our tradition more than anything. In fact, I know him like inside out. But should we still impose to have 5 wives or 2 wives, polygamy?
Yeah.
We shouldn't be that. It should be your choice as a man and not be a requirement for you to ascend the throne.
It's almost like God, through that story, was communicating that this is not how it should be. It's in the beginning, it was not so.
Yes. And God, this had nothing to do with the white man Christianity. Let's be honest with ourselves. When you look into your past, how you grew up, when I'm going to tell you my own story, you're going to shed into tears. But it's not just me. It's a story of many Bamileke women that grew up in polygamy. Bamileke girls that grew up in polygamy. It's traumatizing. We can do better. Yeah. We don't have to. It's God that gave children. If they want us to have a successor that we are big sure, ask God to give you that. Don't depend on multiple wives, because that will only create and shortcut your life, especially men.
Well, think of the story of Abraham being stuck between his wife Sarai and then Hagar. That's a clear evidence of the pain of that separation.
Even in real life, when you have 2 wives, You have to lie when you go to meet Bernadette. Then tomorrow you have to lie when you go to sleep with Therese. You have to lie when you go to see with Brigitte. You have to lie every time. Do you think that really honor God? No.
You mentioned how
me growing up, I came from a family of 8. My dad his father was the son of the king, Chef Balum, back home. And apparently, from what I heard, there was some sort of succession war and who's going to take over the throne and all that when the king dies, and his life was at stake. So he decided to run to Chang for refuge and all that. From there, he married, but he had only one wife. He had many wives. But his son wanted to continue that legacy of one because his father said one wife is always disaster. Multiple wives is always a disaster. He wanted to continue that. However, unfortunately for him, he could not have a child on his own. Every wife he married come in, they didn't have a child, they didn't conceive, and just like Abraham, Sarah. And that's when he went into polygamy. He didn't enjoy polygamy. And I believe my mom, he initially wanted to marry my mom, but she refused because he was a military man. She said she's scared of guns and the military men in uniform, and she refused. But 25 years later, she still married him anyway, and that's how she became the last wife. And the result, and the true love, the true woman that he ever loved was my mom. And because of that, you can see it when you come to our compound. They have her kitchen is the biggest of all the women in the compound, even the village. And he put the roof of his house, tied it to his main house to show the world that we are inseparable. He was so happy when he married her family at last. Even though she went on to one abusive marriage, we didn't work and all that, but when he married him, he felt fulfilled. When he died, he felt fulfilled. And my trouble started after his death because, well, I should say before I even was born, because polygamy.
Yeah.
When he showed all this love to her, my goodness, I'm a woman. Imagine you're married to the same man, but then he's showing all his attention and love to one person. Do you know what it will make the other women feel? Of course, they'll be jealous. And they'll try to terminate my life right from the womb. They tried to end my mom's life many times. Many times. I'm not saying it's over. It's still going. And somehow, she always told me the story of one of my stepmother came and took me, just like you see in Cinderella's story. She came like in a deceived way. And I want to hold the baby. She gave the baby. And then she started raining curses on me. Since you have refused to die, well, I'm going to translate that. It's in I can say that in Bamileke because some Bamileke will be watching. Okala tang tang olukhu. Okala nongte olukhu. Okala wa okana pua. Ola tang tang olukhu. Ola jonga olo sajubo. It's a curse. She was saying, I will always be sick and I will never make it in life. And you will never make anywhere in life because you refuse to die in the womb. That's what she was saying. Wow. When my mom heard that, she walked in the room and said, is that why you came to take my child, to curse the child? But I forgive her because...
Praise God.
God, if God didn't, my daddy may have, maybe this would happen. But at the same time, like, if God allowed it, was for a purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
From my mother's womb when I was only 3 months old, nobody knew my mom was pregnant, except God himself. And someone appeared to my grandfather, on my maternal side grandfather, and told me, your daughter, Therese, is pregnant. She will soon give birth, in 3 months from now, she will give birth to a girl child. You should call her Djoussi, which means woman of God, what we call in seer or prophet or voyant in French. And that's how my name came about. And nobody knew my mom was pregnant except my mom and her husband. And,
Wow.
and when she came and told my mom, "Are you pregnant?" She said, "Yes, I'm 3 months gone." Wow. I had a message for you. It's going to be a girl child. Make sure you give the name Djoussi to her when she's born. And that's how my story came alive. And then when the stepmother tried everything she could to end me, and for some reason they told her you can't harm her. She's protected by some unseen forces. That means you're chosen.
Yeah.
That's what we call in English. You're chosen. You can't harm her because God has a big purpose for her life. You can't. And many times they have tried.
Yeah.
I was telling you about this in 2015. I was in a car accident to go to deliver.
Well, let's wait. Let's hold on there. We've got a lot more to come. I think this is a good place for a break.
Yeah.
So we'll take a break, and we'll be right back with Maribelle Djoussi and her amazing West Cameroon story.
Hey everyone, this week's episode is sponsored by Family Renewal Project. FRP is a local theology of the body apostolate in service to the Archdiocese of Louisville. They're dedicated to renewing the culture through the renewal of the family. They have so many amazing things going on, so check them out at familyrenewalproject.com.
And we're back with Maribelle Djoussi on Spirit and Spire. I'm going to turn it over to the purple-shirted Bryan Cain. Take it from here, Bryan.
Well, thank you, Erik, for that kind and not at all sarcastic introduction. So, Maribelle, thank you so much for your time thus far and this amazing story that is unfolding before our eyes. We were struck by many things, but obviously, life in Africa and in West Cameroon is very different than what we grew up with.
Right.
And so almost every word you say is, somehow striking in some way, just in how different an experience you had growing up, with us being raised in the West, in Christendom, or what's left of it. So we want to hear more about your childhood, but I think you wanted to start maybe with the prophet Jeremiah and connect to that. But then tell us more about childhood in West Cameroon and some of the things that happened as a result of some of these polygamous relationships.
So like I said earlier, when I was just like Jeremiah in the Bible, I was chosen by God Himself. From my mother's womb. I was 3 months old. Nobody knew that my mom was pregnant, but God knew about it, and He chose the name Djoussi. Mm-hmm. And Djoussi means woman of God, and it's another way of saying Assia in French, voyant. And today, now that I'm more involved in God stuff, it makes me now understand everything. Now everything connects. Mm-hmm. But you will still understand my story. It's like everything kind of added up. Everything makes sense. It's a connecting dots. Mm-hmm. And when my mom delivered, it wasn't easy either. They make sure she doesn't deliver. She nearly died in labor. All this because of one child. And because she kept receiving more love than the rest of the wife, it caused one of the wives to betray my father and go with one of the enemy, and they poisoned him in his life short before he could even conspiracy from the inside. That's the best way of putting it. So he taught him a favorite meal, and they used that to end his life.
What age is it? Is this at the same time before you're born?
And
or,
this is like...
Or how old are you at that point?
I'll probably be like three something.
So you were 3 years old.
About 4 years old.
Your father was killed.
Yes, my father died he was 1990, so I'm probably 5 years old. Yes.
Do you have any memories of him?
Not much. The only thing I remember is one of my auntie from the father's side show him being buried. Like, that's your father inside. You'll never see him again. That's all I remember. And also, I know that he was diabetic, and every morning he will make salad and with bread, lettuce with bread as breakfast. And it was later in life that I now started figuring out, why do I love lettuce so much? And then mom like, because you used to eat that with your father all the time. He was like, every morning he will make sure you eat that. He said, that's your last bread. He kept saying that, like he knew he's gonna die. On his last day in his battle with this sickness that they gave him through poison, so he was making sure he eat all the things that, just like the Ecclesiastes, enjoy your best meal because that's all you're gonna take when you leave this world. So his last day, he was trying to make sure he eat all the things he couldn't eat when he was because of diabetes. So he make sure he eat those things. His favorite meal, his favorite traditional meal, his couscous and cuit, bamileke, his and then meats mostly. He would give a lot of meat to my brother, and to me he'll give me a lot of bread, and he would say, eat as much as you can because this is the last bread you will see. And he would tell my brother, I feel sorry for you because this is the only meat you will eat for a very long time in your life. As if he was seeing the future or something, I don't know. But growing up, after he died in Bamileke, just like most traditional African tradition, women don't have right to inheritance. So my mom didn't have much access to whatever he left behind, except the land that she was cultivating. So she grew stuff, only like yams and just crops, and feed our son. And her in-law, who could take care of her, was more concerned of sleeping with her, and she refused. And because she refused, he makes sure he made life miserable for her. For example, on the day of the what they call it, widow ritual,
Like mourning.
Yeah, mourning ritual.
Yeah.
In Africa in general. But in Bamileke tribe precisely, if your husband was a title man or a descendant of a king or something like that, when he died, if he's like a superior king, that's why I mentioned the level of kingship. It's 9 weeks of mourning. It's 7 weeks for the lower level. And in this case, it would be 7 weeks that she would not eat something that is being cooked with food. So you can only eat like roasted plantain, roasted yam, bread, nothing that is being cooked with food, with water. There you go. I will get to that in a minute because that's another thing. I'm like, should we still do this? Because that's like someone die and you're punishing another person. And then men usually capitalize on that, especially if they suspect that you had a hand on the death of their loved one. Oh my goodness. They will use that to make life miserable during those 7 weeks. And in her case, because she refused to sleep with him, he made sure she stand under the sun, the rain, and not seeing us, her children, for like 3 days in a row. Until one day my father's spirit appeared to the king of the village and said, go and tell my brother to stop what he's doing, because if not, I will come after him and end his life immediately. So what they did, they accused my mom of hiding the goat that was supposed to be used for the sacrifice and taking the successor to the superior king of the Francois village, which was not true. They hide the goat and turn around and accuse her. And she said, I can be a lot of things, but I'm not a thief. Like I told you, she lived her life based on the 10 Commandments because she went through Catholicism training. She was about to be baptized, but her parents refused to give her their consent. So she really lived her life in a righteous that way. And because of that,
still better catechized than a lot of people.
Even till today,
Sure.
she doesn't work on Sunday. She doesn't sacrifice things. She really doesn't like it. Like it's being forced on her. She hates doing it because she say it's against God. You shouldn't be doing this. And that day when her late husband made that appearance, they had no choice but to let her free her. But then they made sure she had not even a dime. So it was the successor, who is my stepfather, that he's the one that raised me. And I part of what I am, he contributed a lot to it. And so that's why I was like, he's against me now because I'm talking about Christianity, but
he was a major father figure in
yes,
your life.
But I love you. You know I love you, and I will always tell you the truth. You know that. But he was the one that helped her along the line to raise us. But like most women, growing up in a childhood, it was not easy, very rough. Some years, I remember my biggest memory was at the age of 6. She was, the battle of polygamy continued. She was poisoned by her best friend because she refused to sleep with anybody else.
This was your mom. Your mom was poisoned.
Yes. And all this because of me. It all drove back to me. Because they knew that if she's not alive, then my destiny will not be fulfilled, because she will not be there because the prophecy was made that she should do everything within her power to make sure I reach the level, that marriage level.
Age.
Marriage age. When I get married, my husband will take over from there. But it's your sole responsibility to make sure she reach marriage level, marriage age. And that prophecy was what the enemy was capitalizing on in all the time. And they're trying to end her life and do all these things. So when she didn't die from the second poison from her best friend, and at that time it was only 6. That's just like a year later after the death of her husband. Sexual harassment from left to right. If you refuse, you won't give you nothing. You will have no money. You have no, and then they're trying to end her life because she finally decided to settle with one man. Oh, so you think he's better than me? No, we both lose. You know, that kind of story. If we're gonna lose both of them, I'm gonna lose her. But God saved her life and protect her. And at 6, I was the one cooking to feed my younger one.
I was going to ask, because you mentioned a brother.
Yes.
So you have one brother.
And at the death of my father, I have my younger brother, David. He was only, 3 years old at that time.
Okay. So he's
like
by
Benjamin and Joseph in the Bible.
the same father, same
yes,
mother.
Same father, same mother,
Okay.
yes. And David was a baby at that time, so I had to be the one because my grandmother was busy fighting to help her save her life. And then now we were supposed to be taken care of by one of the auntie, and it became like a Cinderella story. She started turning us into a slave in her house and all that. She would cook. When it's time to do breakfast, she taught us to go and check on the grandmother's fox, goats and chickens and stuff. And then when we come back, she had already gave her kids breakfast. Nothing for us. So,
Goodness, I mean, it's funny, you descend from royalty.
That was when I learned to cook at 6. I'm like, one day I'm like, why do I keep doing it? And then my brother, during the day, we have to go through the farms and people farm. And God, I hate to admit, but we have to still take like fruits from people farm to eat, like guavas and sugar canes, things like that to eat, because that's all we had. That's all we can see. And one day I'm like, I had enough of this. And I couldn't go to school either because she's not around to pay for my tuition at that time. One day I'm like, I'm going to take my courage and I'm going to solve this once and for all. So I told my brother, we're not going back there. We will back to grandma's house. We will cook. I will cook the way I saw grandma do in the past. I stayed with grandma for 1 year, and every time when she was cooking, I always wanted to help. But I didn't know why I was doing this. Yeah. And then I found myself cooking. It wasn't perfect, but I felt so fulfilled that my brother could eat that night before going to bed. Yeah. And the next day he had breakfast. I was so happy. Yeah. And growing up, and then you would think that with such big family, right? You have all the love and the support. My kid make fun of me and say, Mom, you have such a big family, because I always say cousin and cousin and cousin. And it's like, yeah, I have a lot of family, but most of them, they don't see me that way.
Right.
But I see them as my
because
family.
It's got to be hard to keep relationships straight with that many different spouses and all of the children that descend from that.
Yes.
It's got to be an overwhelming amount of chaos and confusion. I can't imagine.
Traumatized. And I remember nightmare really stopped in my life when I get to America. Actually, just recently. For years, I suffered a lot of trauma from past experience, and I'm very sure I'm not the only one. It's a story of most family. That's why I want to put this in the book. It's a story of most family. They came girls, because girls suffer the most. They're not allowed to do certain things. They're not allowed to, even when it comes to schooling, some family won't even send their kid to school unless the mom is willing to make the sacrifice like my mom did. She was working in other people's farm to pay my tuition. So when she was poisoned, I felt like my life has come to an end. I remember crying in my sheets every night because my friend came and told me, we're about to have the first semester exam and you're still not coming to school yet. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Grandma is not here and my mom is sick. She's the only one that can help. And my brother, my stepfather that used to come, I don't know why he's not here yet. And then I'm like, and then an idea came. I'm like, I'm going to show up to the principal and just, what we call the director at the school. I'm going to beg him and see if he can help me. So I went to him and told him the same story I'm telling you right now. And then he let me take the exam. And it was like a miracle. I got 100 in every single test.
And how old are you?
6. Every single subject, subtopic that the teacher gave me. And they're like, how? They were amazed. They were shocked. They're like, well, I love education, even from being your child. So even though mom was not around to dress me to go to school, I will go and stay behind the classroom. Behind the classroom. Oh, God. When I think about this, sorry.
You're fine.
It's not like in America where your classroom is cleaned and well kept. You have peace. You have poop. I will go and sit there all day so I can just hear my teacher voice speaking. But I was most grateful. All I was doing all day was listen to a teacher, and at the same time I would pray that my mom come true, because if she dies, my journey is over. Because I see that just that she's sick, it's over. Nobody to help, even though you have this big family. I was so hurt as a child. And that's another reason why I want to start a foundation, that a child to help the widows and the rejected and the poor, just like Saint Teresa. That's my next goal, if God bless me with the resources. And I know He will. Your child should never think about what to eat or how to pay their school fee. I remember growing up, I went through that. I had to sit there and somehow, when they gave me the test, I got 100. I can only see God at work here.
Oh, God clearly chose you and pulled you through all of this.
Yeah, so I'm like, God, how did I even do that? I don't even remember. And I still remember everything that he said, the teacher was saying in the classroom, that till dates. It's grabbing my memory, like, because I was like, this is very important. Even if I don't go to the classroom ever again, I will keep doing this until my elementary school is over. But then mom pulled through and she survived.
Praise God.
And she came back, and she was when she woke up from the coma, the first thing that came to her mind was, oh, what month are we in? They're like, March. March? The school year is almost over. What about Mirabelle's school fee, tuition? Probably they have already sent her to school. Grandma like, yeah, they have sent her, but somehow they said she did something strange, something no child her age would have done. She went to see the director, very courageous. The whole village was amazed. They're like, how did she come up with such idea to go and meet because the director is not like here where the principal is your friend, and no, it's like they see him in the school like he's God up there, and then you guys are like down here. You don't even show up in his office anyhow. So if you get invitation to his office, then you're in trouble.
You're right.
So for a little 6-year-old to go to his office and kneel before him, begging him, tell him your story, and tell him that my mom is about to die. If you ever had a child, just help me, please. I have nobody else to help. And he went around, investigated on my story, and then he found that it was true. He's like, okay. The next morning he came, and he didn't send me out of the classroom again. He told the teacher, let her in, take her exam. And teacher was like, but she hasn't been in class for more than 3 months. How is she going to take a test
But you were listening.
without even do any coursework material or anything? But she said I should let her. Okay. And then they let me in the classroom. And that touches the director so much that year specifically, they gave a special prize to the best student of the school. And my mom was awarded 10,000 CFA, which is like, I know it's $5, like $20 in America, but over there it's a big deal.
How much was it in that currency?
The prize they gave her, it was 10,000 francs CFA, which is
10,000.
Yeah, which is
$20.
$20
in America.
American dollar.
Wow.
The tuition actually is 2500 so 2,500 francs CFA. 2500 in French, which is what, $5 in America?
For a whole year?
Yeah.
$5
So you
to
got-
go to school for a whole year.
Yes. $5, and they can't afford it. That's my mission. Next time, my next mission is to have a foundation that gives scholarship to those village remote area, because we take it for granted in America.
Yeah.
They don't know. I see here, you can go to college for free if you want to. The government will pay for you to go to school. I'm like, if they need that, I swear you have to struggle to even have $30 to
Yeah.
pay for your whole year.
Goodness
The secondary education, my mom was working in people's farm. I'm talking like acres of farms, because they take advantage of her. They know that she's in need. Therefore, they would give her big vast of land to cultivate for just $1,500, which is what, $3. She imagine how many land she's gonna cultivate like that before it reach the amount that is needed.
Yeah.
So she will do that to pay my tuition and my books and notebook. And notebook is very important in a Cameroonian education. It's not like here where you pay your tuition and then they give you everything. No. You're the parent, you're responsible for school supply, your tuitions. They don't call it tuition. They said technically the public school is supposed to be free, but it's not really free. They're called Association des Parents, meaning it's the parent fee to support the school.
So that was just your first year of schooling, and then
That's the
rest
beginning of
the-
my school journey.
Wow.
Well, let's
and
let's
the whole thing was like that. She
Yeah.
suffered every time to pay for my tuition. Some years my stepfather would come through and be nice and send tuition, send school fees. And we in America, we take it for granted, but we're talking about like 10,000.
Yeah.
But that 10,000 that he sent to us, I would see it like a God-given
Yeah.
grace. I did.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should take a pause there. That's a good break, and we'll be right back with more on Spirit and Spire.
Hey everyone, another sponsor for today's episode is the Cathedral of the Assumption in the heart of downtown Louisville, Kentucky. It is the spiritual center of parish and family life and is a historic treasure for the Catholic Church in America. Take a tour or consider visiting for Mass. Check them out at cathedraloftheassumption.org.
Welcome back. We're here on Spirit and Spire with Maribelle Djoussi. And we just left off. We were in childhood, growing up, school, education. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sweater over here, Isaac Fox, and we'll pick it up from there.
Thank you, Eric. You are on a roll today with the interesting introductions.
It's a nice sweater. It's a
I
very
thought
nice
he
sweater.
was Mr. Sweater. He was the first sweater to appear on the show.
I know.
He is that's also a very nice. I am envious of your all sweaters, guys. I just
This
do
is
the
a
best.
Portuguese fisherman sweater.
have a sweater
that would
vest.
catch Cameroon
Yes.
shrimp with.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect for the occasion.
We'll have to discuss Cameroon ghost shrimp on another episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Isaac.
Well, yes. So, Maribel, thank you for being here. I only knew a little bit of your story. Eric had just kind of given us some hints about where you had come from, and so this has been just fascinating to me. I have a couple of questions for you, but first of all, during the break, we were just continuing a little bit the conversation about school, and two things that have just popped in my mind. One is, in the Bible, James says this is true religion, taking care of the widows and orphans. I'm not quoting it quite right.
Yeah.
But the Old Testament is also full of passages where it's very clear that God cares very deeply for the poor, for the widows, for the orphaned, and he's very unhappy with those who do not take care of them. And your story is just really powerful to me, and I could not help but think in terms of education. You said that the tuition was 10,000. I don't remember what the monetary unit was. It was a French.
Well, at that time, when they had increased a little bit now, but at my age, it was 2,500 francs CFA, which is the Cameroon currency.
Okay.
And in American dollar, it's $5.
$5, that's right. And I was thinking that I think often when we think of helping people, when we think of helping the widows, the orphans, the poor, we think about how we think it takes so much.
No.
And maybe some of us are poor. But when I heard that, I thought, I would be considered a poor person here in our country. And I thought, well, I could, even as a poor man, I could afford to probably send 50 to 100 kids to school for a year in Cameroon. So maybe that can kind of encourage all of us to realize that even a few dollars helps out a tremendous amount.
Yes.
Okay, so I wish that we had 3 or 4 episodes with you because I want to hear every bit of your story in detail because it's fascinating. But I know that we don't have that much time, and so I know we're going to get to a point in time where you become Catholic. You've told us a lot about your background in an atmosphere which is not Catholic at all. Your mother was interested in being baptized and was forbidden. So I know this is probably skipping ahead a little bit, but I am just really curious to find out what first made you be interested in the Catholic faith. Even before you converted, was it from your mother? Was there some other influence in your life? What started sending you on that path towards the Catholic Church?
I would say not just Catholic, Christian faith in general, Christianity in general. When I was little, even though I was going through all this, I always pray to God, even though I don't know which God I'm praying to, but I would make my little prayer, see chapel, see I would say that in our local dialect, and I didn't know what I was doing. And when I was about 10 or 11, and this is like my last year in elementary, I heard this voice calling me from my father's compound in the middle of the day. And I was one of my cousins nearby the compound. And I heard her name, and they heard it too. She's late now, but she was my friend at that time, and we were about same age, so we played together. And I heard the name, somebody calling my name. I thought it was my mom. I went back to the compound. It's empty. There's nobody. And I'm like, this is strange. And I came back. I told her, Janda, I didn't see anybody in that compound. It's empty and blank. It's scary at the same time. And she's like, and then my mom came back, did you by any chance come back to this house today? And she's like, nope. And I began to be very scared. And she was also scared. She's like, I hope you didn't answer from Spirit call. That was Spirit call. And I'm like, and then every time I'm singing at home, I was find myself always singing. And I have written a lot of songs that I'm looking for producer too, if y'all know one. So I was singing all the time gospel songs, not regular song like other people. Every time I would be singing with gospel, and she's like, "You're always attracted to gospel. Why not go to church?" And I asked her, "Mom, look, the truth is, I'm confused. The Protestants say the Catholic are in French they call it idolatry.
Idolaters.
Yes, they're
worshipping statues.
Statue worshippers, right.
Then the Catholic, on the other hand, are saying the Protestant do not really worship God the way it should be. So I'm confused in the middle. I don't know which church I should go to. And I told him there was a Christian couple in the community that she kind of told me, I see you in the future becoming a very good tool in God's hand. That's what she said. And I'm like, but she was Protestant. I'm like, okay. And I started getting attracted to her faith at that time. Then later on, when fast forward, life started getting harder on me, and as we did sacrifice, nothing works. We did tradition in every angle. Nothing works.
You're sacrificing to the tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And we go to the ancestor, offer sacrifice. Nothing. It's not just a tree. They also do to, like, if your father died, they take the skull.
Skull.
Yeah, the
Skull of the father?
Yes. Or your mother, whatever relative that dies. They take the skull from the tomb years later and kept it somewhere in the house. We call it house of the Maison des Crânes in French. So all the skulls are kept in that house. All your ancestors. And then we'll go there and offer sacrifice on it and pray to them. Just like the same thing. Just like the European paganism.
But would they see them as gods, or would they see them as
They're
people praying for them?
They're not praying for them. They're asking them to bless them, to protect them, to guide them.
It's a little bit different than asking the saints to pray for us, then, I guess.
It's kind of similar. It's like they're asking their departed one to watch over us,
Okay.
protect us, guide us.
But they
Let
have
no
the
evil
skulls of these very people in their homes.
Yes.
Wow.
And if you are the inheritance keeper, like my grandmother was, your house will have, your kitchen will have that, like, lined up there. Or they will have a house in the compound, like in my father's compound, they have a house where they keep all the skulls and they offer sacrifice there. They told me, go and do this, go and do this sacrifice, go and do that one. I remember one time they took me to one of them and they put me on Marabout in French. Those who are watching will understand. And they put me in a circle and told me to look at the sun and do all kinds of things around me to watch out whatever it is that was disturbing me. Because I was deeply disturbed, but I couldn't tell what is wrong with me. So I was going through what Jonas went through. Because God is calling Jonas and Jonas is resisting. He called me when I was 11, but I'm like, ignoring. I don't even know who's calling me. I thought I'm going crazy. Fast forward, 2008. Same thing happened again. And this time I'm in Yaoundé. I'm staying with my late brother, Paul. May his soul rest in peace. And I thought his wife called me. I went in 3 times. Just like in the Bible, Samuel was called 3 times.
I was going to say Samuel.
I'm
was like, wow.
3 times. I went, I'm like, who is calling me? I remember getting so scared. I would run back to the village and tell Mom, I don't know, maybe I'm about to die.
How old are you in 2008, if you don't mind me asking?
About 24, I think.
Okay.
So
a young adult.
Yeah, young adult. And I'm like, life has hitting me so hard, heartbreak.
But you remembered the time when you were 11 when you had that initial call.
Yes.
But you didn't.
But I didn't know what it was. I thought it was the spirit calling my name.
So this is almost like
so
an experience of childhood.
In French, for
back.
those who are watching the Bamileke people, they won't understand. I thought c'était les sorciers, meaning because they have witch that can use people's voice to call you, right? So with that, that's why it ran in my mind because I was deeper rooted in tradition. In the darkness, I didn't know any better. So, so that was what came in my mind. And
one of the things that's striking me, Maribelle, is I went to your World Youth Day in Panama in 2019, and an African cardinal spoke, cardinal of the church, and one of the things that was asked was, what would English speakers in the Western world be surprised to know about Africa? And he said, in America, you have it so good, you're so wealthy that you don't really need faith. You can get your food, you can get your medicine, you can get anything you need, any need fulfilled. He said in Africa, we need faith. Like faith is sometimes how you get your food or sometimes how you get cured.
Even a job.
So I think like one of the things.
Even a job, yes.
Yeah. One of the things.
I have classmates that still we graduated from college to get in with my masters. Till today, they have not have a real job.
And so, I think our audience would be shocked by how much supernatural there is in your story. I don't think because of a lack of faith, we don't encounter the supernatural very often in the United States.
Yes.
So there's both sides of that, of
Yeah.
course. There's supernatural things happening in the Christian world, but then you're talking about witches, you're talking about people invoking pagan gods,
Yes.
and supernatural things are happening on that side too.
And,
So
and they don't know that doing all these cults, worshiping that they're doing. I'm not saying we should not honor our ancestors. No,
Okay.
don't
Right.
get me wrong. Everybody has a history. You have some family. Even Elijah and Moses appeared to Jesus at the garden.
Right.
So it means that our loved one should be honored. But making them God is the problem here.
Right.
yeah,
So we don't have to go to them and offer sacrifice. We can just go there and pray for them. Show them that we love them by loving the one who are still here with us.
Yeah.
Love because you can't go offer sacrifice on the skull of your grandmother and come home, you won't even greet your brother. You won't even talk to your
But you can't pay
uncle.
it back. You have to pay it forward. Right?
And come home, you don't talk to your cousin. I mean,
Yeah.
like I told my story, I'm here. I'm supposed to be in my cousin, my auntie house, like mother's side. They're supposed to be taking care of me. No. But at the end of the day, they will come see my grandmother to do sacrifice.
Well, you
That's the point.
mentioned that earlier, and what popped in my mind then was where Jesus says in the gospel, if you go to make a sacrifice and remember that you have an issue with your brother, leave your sacrifice, go make it right with your brother, then come back and make the offering. God will accept the sacrifice.
Right.
And what you're saying here is kind of the opposite. They make the sacrifice thinking everything will be okay, and then come back and don't talk to their brother, right? And God,
It's not going to work.
God as our Father wants His children to get along, and so He's like, no, you get this stuff right first, then come and talk to me.
Yes,
You know?
that's what I'm getting at. If
Yeah.
the true sacrifice is helping your brothers, helping your someone who is in need.
That's when Christ says, learn the meaning of the words, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, so that your sacrifice actually takes on real meaning,
Yes.
because you know that sacrifice involves self-denial, learning to forgive others, getting
Yes.
over yourself,
Yes.
learning humility,
Yes.
and all of the commitment that's required to love your family and give them the needs that they deserve.
That's true.
And that's forgotten oftentimes when we're focused on
That's true.
what the world offers us.
I'm really glad we're grounding things back to theology and putting them in context of people who don't understand the supernatural here. But I want to go back to that voice.
Yes.
Okay.
You know,
3
which was
times you were called.
Good at that.
Fast
Super
forward-
interesting.
Fast
And
forward, I'm already in college. I'm
Okay.
like my bachelor year, and somehow life has hit me hard. I'm being betrayed. I'm being hurt, lied to, deceived, and I'm feeling like the world is crashing on me. And to crown it all, I feel like this tradition is not helping matters. It's not helping much because I would run to the village and mom couldn't help either. Then she took me to this one marabout that I was supposed to help. And I came back that night. I don't know, you can still see the scars, some scars on my neck. Someone came and cut my neck spiritually. I woke up in the morning with actual scar, like someone trying to cut my throat. I'm like, hey! And thank God, my brother's wife, Paula, I just mentioned, she's Christian. So she came to the village, and she's Catholic too. She had her holy water with her. So when I was screaming and holding my neck, and she's like, I see spiritual attack here. She just sprinkled water over me and prayed to Holy Mary. Yeah, that was what she prayed to. She prayed to Holy Mary and sprinkled water over me. And then somehow it stopped. And in the morning, and my mom was on her knee crying, begging God to save me and don't let the enemy win and all this type. And my stepfather, on the other hand, he's like, I don't know where you took this child to, but wherever you take her to was destruction. And we're like, great. Obviously, this was one of them. And at this point, I had a child. There was this man that promised me marriage, but he didn't follow through, and I'm pregnant, and he denied me and denied the child, and I'm in college with a child to feed, no job, no money, nothing. And then no family to even support, because in African culture, to have a child out of wedlock, it's a taboo.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be rejected by everybody. I remember living a pure ghetto. Like my neighbor was sneaking weeds and drugs and somehow God protect me. They didn't harm me for some reason. And they were more compassionate to me more than actually those that seems well behaved in the real world. They're like, what happened to you? And I told them, well, I fell in love and with the wrong guy, and that's the result. And I thought it's gonna lead to marriage, and now he denied me and denied the child. And he's not really denying the child, but he's not taking up to his responsibility. And most of my family has, after this point, turned their back on me, except my step brother Paul and my stepfather Daniel. At that point, I'm like, he's the only one. They still care a little bit, but they can't visit me because they feel like I'm a shame. I have brought shame to the family. So, and I remember staying there for 9 months, for a few months, and my uncle from my mother's side, Joseph. Thank you. If you're watching, I'm grateful to you for everything. His wife was very helpful. She cared for me. She wasn't Christian, but she always lived like a righteous life, virtuous woman. She helped me a lot in that dark time of my life. And before I heard the voice calling the second time, something happened that very moment. There was this friend I had in college, Kati. She was always talking about, she was Catholic, and she's always telling me to give my life to Christ. And she kept saying, Christ is your solution. You should give your life to Christ. And I'm like, do I have to? And then I will come home to my stepfather, and they're all in this tradition, and they're teaching me all the traditional rules and the culture, and they expect me to be the mafia going forward. I behave like a daughter of the kingship lineage, you know, and I'm conflicting between the two. And she's like, I want you to give your life to Christ. She would take me to crusade, like prayer, evangelizations, and all that. I remember being in that one of them. The person who was doing the crusade that day said, evangelization crusade said, I see you in America. I see you holding a green card visa. And I remember laughing so hard. I'm like, is he talking to me? Definitely not me. Who's going to pay for that?
Right.
Is he talking to me? And this is like 2007.
Yeah.
And I'm just laughing. And then a few months later, I'm pregnant. And I feel like life has definitely gone wrong completely with me. Yeah, nobody's going to be proud of you anymore. They're going to hate the heck out of you. And it's true. That's our culture. But then there are some people along the line that show love. But while I was in that ghetto area, God was still with me. Remember, through all this time, every time there's this strange miracle that will show up, and then I remember I came back, I have no food, pregnant woman, she has not eaten all day long. And I'm coming back from my lecture. And I sat in front of the room. There's this broken room where I was staying. It was like halfway about to fall down. We laughed, but when Serge went to that place, he's like, you are a woman of substance. Because you went through all this and you're still standing strong. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God is with me. That's what I can say. So the room was like about to collapse. And I was the only one I can find. And I remember I had to lie to him that I have somebody somewhere who's going to come to pay. But I had nobody. And he's like, you going to pay? I'm like, yeah, my mom's going to come and pay. And if she doesn't, my uncle will pay. But I had no one who was going to pay for it. And it was not much, $10,000 per month. $10,000 is $20.
$20, yeah.
Per month, the rent. Wow. But I had a choice. I was between paying that $10,000 per month or go to lecture. Yeah. And the bus to go to school, to go to college, was $150, which is what? It's not even a quarter. It's not even a quarter. It's not even a dime. I think it's a nickel. And I have a choice between doing that and eat at least a piece of bread or go to, and I'm like, I had to graduate from college no matter what. Yeah. No matter what happened, I must have my master's degree no matter what happened. And I would go and do commercial advertisement for door to door for people, and then I would sell donuts, beignets.
I know beignets.
Very early in the morning so that I can support myself, and I graduated college debt free.
That's awesome.
At that point on, people that because I have no help. Yeah, that's was how I paid the rest of my college time to search along and start helping. But for that year, but God was still in the picture because one day I came back, all I had was 200. There was some francs CFA, which is 200. That's not even a dime in America. And I'm sitting there, go, even if I went to buy a cup of rice, where's the fire to cook? It's already 10 p.m. because coming back from a lecture, it's late. Almost everything is closed. And even if I want to go and buy somewhere right now, where's the money? And I'm like, well, wait, I have some cardamom in my room, but I don't have the fire. Yeah, this 200 will buy the rice and the stuff to cook with it, but where's the fire? And then when I was about to get up to go to then I just sat there and go, obviously you have messed up your life, girl. You ruined your life by yourself. Maybe you should have accepted Christ like Tati said. And I'm sitting there and go, at this point, God, you win. I have nobody. I have no one. If you want this child to die in my womb with me, fine. If not, I'm okay. And I'll get up and then I'm going to bed to sleep on an empty stomach. And then I trip over something that make this noise. I'm like, what's that? Is that my chest? Matches, which is like...
Yeah, box of matches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know how much the matches is back there? It's not even $1. It's not even 50 cents. It's 25 francs at that time, which is like a penny in America. Maybe even less. But that matches that night was really what made me drove completely to God that night. Because I tripped over, I thought it was one of my neighbors smoking weed that left matches.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's what came in my mind. I was like, well, either way, I'm going to use it, and tomorrow I will tell them that I have a mattress that I found here. Did you forget your mattress? Nope. Went to the landlord. Did you forget your mattress? Nope. To the wife? Nope. The whole surrounding, everybody, no. So where on earth a brand new mattress came from?
God.
Yeah.
And I had no answer. I'm like, this can only be God. Yeah. When I cooked that night, I ate, it was almost 1 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, this is God out of work. Then I went to sleep that night. I saw the child that I'm still carrying in my womb riding on a horse. I'm like, and then he told me the name I should give to the child when I woke up. The child will reach some places that you can't reach. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And then I saw him in church. So the next morning, it was my first time to go to Catholic church.
And so you saw the child in a Catholic church?
Yes.
Specifically?
Riding on a horse to get, like, he's being honored to come inside the Catholic church. I'm like, maybe God is saying this child is going to serve him someday. Or maybe he's telling me to serve him because Christ's going to come someday. And I heard that he's going to come on a horse. Maybe it's Christ I'm seeing. I don't know. But either way, I thank you. I know that you're at work. And throughout this time, even though I had no food, but I had this peace.
Yeah.
If you see my picture at that time, I mean, my face was so radiating, like as someone who is like well taken care of and have all that life can offer. Yeah. Yet she will eat only a piece of bread before going to bed. Some days, gari, for those who know from Africa, a pregnant woman. And yet my face was so shiny all the time. And I was so, my grade in school was like beyond comprehension.
It's like the story of Elijah, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
So when I look back, so then after a year, when I got my bachelor, I'm like, no, I can't continue to deceive this man. He's been good to me. He's gonna keep hoping that I'm gonna pay his rent. That rent will never come. So I told him, I'm like, should I tell him? If I tell him that I'm leaving, he's gonna hold my belongings. So what do I do? God help me. So I pack in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. in the morning, with my younger sister, ask her to help me. We live in my brother Paul, from all my siblings, a big family of 23 siblings. It was the one that is deaf and dumb, that he can't even speak. He was the only one from my step one that could visit me, find where I live, care to give me little he had, all that he had. And he was also the one that offered me a room in his house, even though he had just a small house for his kids. And he didn't even have anything. So helping doesn't take much.
No.
It doesn't take much. He didn't have much. He didn't have anything enough to feed his own wife. But he said, if you can manage this really tiny bed here with your baby, fine. I'm like, I'll take it. And now my distance from there to the college, it's even longer. But I'm like, determination will get to you where you want to be. And they say in our language that if you, before God comes to help you, you have to help yourself. So I'm like, I have to get my degree no matter what. I'm not quitting and I'm not stopping, because somehow I kept seeing myself in the future being somewhere great, but it will be because of education that opened the door to get there.
Yeah.
And then boom, 2009, fast forward, I'm now in a master's degree and I'm in Brother Paul house, and that's why I heard the tree was calling. And then that year, somehow, for some reason, the government decided to give grants to best students of the college, $50,000 to go and study, to pay for their tuition for the next year.
$50,000 or
50,000 francs CFA.
Okay, francs CFA.
Which is $100 American, but that's a tuition.
It's a lot of money.
That's
there.
your college
Still
tuition.
a lot of money, yeah.
Yes, that's your college tuition for the whole year.
Yeah.
But to have that, but I already paid my tuition. But at that point, Serge, on the picture, he's already helping me. But before
Serge being your husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was already like a friend at that time. We were just friends, not even dating. We were just friends. He was just compassionate for some reason. When he met me through one of my brothers, he just felt like he should help me for some reason. And he just started helping, and then from friendship to dating to marriage. But 3-time calling. And that first time I went to Catholic church, it was a Sunday morning. That day, it was the day Chapelle Ngusso, à Yaoundé. That was the day I said, I think I should baptize myself. But how do I go with this? Where do I start from? And then I forget about it, went to my brother's house. And then that's when he called me 3 times and said, I need you, 3 times. And at that 3 times, there was also another of my stepbrother wives that kept saying, you need Jesus.
Yeah.
She kept saying, you need Jesus. And she told me about some gentleman who was Catholic in the community, and he had decided to quit his job, Jean, and he was just evangelizing, bringing people to Christ. One day on my way from college, I kept seeing myself in the coffin. I can't keep doing this. Is it that God will allow the enemy to kill me or what? I have tried the marabout. I have tried everything else. Nothing seems to work. Not even sacrifice. Not even the ancestors. Let me try Jesus. That's exactly what I said that day on my way back from school. I said, I'm going to try.
And that's when
Jesus.
everything started to open up for you,
Yes.
right?
I think
And
that's
then
a
all
good.
of a sudden, it was like all the doors open.
Well, that sounds like a good place for the doors opening for our final segment. So we'll pick right back up there with the doors opening when we come back on Spirit and Spire. Hey everyone, here at Spirit and Spire, we want to serve our community by highlighting God's work in our parishes, schools, and apostolates. We hope to bring renewal and unity between all those in the body of Christ. If you would like a shout out in the next episode of Spirit Inspire, go to spiritinspire.com or email us at spiritinspire@gmail.com. Thanks and God bless. Welcome back to Spirit Spire for our final segment. We opened some doors, and Mr. Bryan Cain left out of one of them. So, we're down to 3 guys, but we're finishing up our what's been so far an amazing story here with Maribelle Djoussi. So the doors have been opened, and where are we at?
So I wanted to jump in and just thank you for being here real quick, because you said you came from royalty, and you were talking about your Cinderella story of all the things going on with all the different siblings and feeling like you were family but they didn't feel that way, and not being fed. I mean, the intense poverty, the uncertainty of your education, and all of what you've been through. My first and maybe perhaps most important question is, do you have a crown? You come from royalty. No. I had to mention that, but
Bamileke is different. My next video, I can dress up in Bamileke way.
That would be so beautiful.
That'll be for
something.
The next
that
episode
communicates that,
yes.
Right? In that way, because to me, right? Well, you telling your story to me is such a gift, because everyone has a story. But not everyone feels or believes they have a story, or they believe their story isn't worth telling.
Yeah.
And so I guess my question is, and you can, answer this as you continue to tell your story, is how can perhaps your story help other people feel like their story matters on some level?
Whatever you're going through, I would say, especially for my sisters from the Bamileke tribe, we think our ancestors' ways are always the best. I'm not questioning that. Some of them were the best, but some of them are not. I told you, she took me to this Marabu that they nearly cut my throat the next morning. So that makes me believe Christianity has nothing to do with European culture. Give your life to Christ. You will never regret it. Because God has been in the picture of your story from the beginning, just like mine. From the mother's womb, He protected me. He made sure I was born. Even though sickness was along the line, trying to take life and everything, He saved me for a purpose. And if that's your story, it's not the end of your life. The moment you accept Christ, it's going to open the door for you in 2 ways. You're going to still have spiritual battle, like myself, but you also have blessing of God Almighty, not just for you, but for your children, for 1,000 generations unborn. Think about that. Now, for your younger one that don't know Christ yet, keep talking to them. One day, they will listen. I say this because when they kept telling me, you need Christ, my brother and wife said, you need Christ. My best friend in college, Kathy, was like, you need Christ. I kept ignoring. And I remember at my first day in college, someone handed me the New Testament, and I didn't even open it. But that night when I stripped over the mattress, the next morning, I read that for the first time.
Wow.
And I read through the whole thing. And my favorite part was the Psalm of Psalms, because I can use that to pray just like David. I'm like, David prayed this and God answered him. So that means I can pray all of it and God will answer me. And from that point on, everything changed. And when I say change, it was beautiful. Imagine in the same year you get engaged. That girl that was rejected because she got pregnant out of wedlock. That you think your career. Actually, that was my main dream, was to become a model. Like an international model. Wow. But when I became pregnant, I feel like that dream is, see, goodbye to that. I even run for Miss Cameroon at one point, but I didn't get far. I get to only the regional level. But I was really determined on going through that. That's why I chose international relationship as my major in college. Wow. Because I wanted to really get into international relationship. But then I didn't know God has a different plan for me. I remember one seer told my mom, keep protecting this child. She had a great call. But then most importantly, whatever she's doing, she thinks she's doing now, she will never work with that degree. And I was like, Mom, did she just curse me? Mom said, I don't know what she meant, but today I know what she meant. It means that what I'm doing is not my call. It's not. God's will, that chosen, that choice that I made. I study United Nations like inside out. Every single program they have, I know it like I come on because that was what I was going for.
Yeah.
But God has a different plan.
Yeah.
So when He called me 3 times, I'm like, this time around, I try everything else. Nothing seems to work. I think I should try Jesus. In the name of Jesus, it was really powerful. The deliverance of that day, the day I was delivered, it was like I can't really explain it.
Like actual spiritual deliverance,
Yes,
we're talking about.
Yes, because I told you I was deeply enrooted in the traditions and all these things, and I in darkness, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the implication of the things I was doing. That deliverance was something else. The man that God used to bring me to Christ, he was like, "Girl, you were in serious mess." The day I walked in him and said, "I want to give my life to Christ today," he said, "If you had not walked into this room, you would have been dead in 3 days from now." He told me that. "I see you in a coffin." I'm like, "Yeah." Before
And you had been seeing that
yeah,
yourself.
I've been seeing myself in a coffin for the past 2 weeks. And he's like, "Yes, the enemy want to use the heartbreak to end you." And I was like, and then he delivered me. And one of the people that were walking to make sure I don't live to see tomorrow light, it was actually my stepmother. One of my stepmother, the wife to my stepfather that I mentioned. I don't want to call people's name out because I have forgiven her. But the day of deliverance, she confessed to her co-wives that she saw me somewhere. And the co-wives were my brother Paul's wives, like I told you. And she's like, and my brother Victor's wives. I'm like, how did she see you when at that particular time you were being praying over for God to deliver your soul from the hands of the enemy? Does that mean she? And I'm like, oh yes. Fast forward, I learned that pregnancy, I was actually raped, and I didn't know. She paid someone to do it. Drug me and make me, because I remember that I'm like, don't remember doing this. How did I get pregnant? How did this happen? I've been very careful.
Yeah.
But then I'm pro-life. My mom is pro-life. She's against abortion. Like, oh, my grandmother, she's like, I lost so many children. Abortion is against, like, the hate things in my family. So I'm like, I have to go through this pregnancy, even though it's going to end my life. I don't know what's going to happen. But then she paid. My story is like the Cinderella story.
You know, my wife and I have our own Cinderella story, but I'm like just in awe at yours. It's incredible.
So they paid. She doesn't know I know this, what happened. God revealed to me after I gave my life to Christ. He revealed to me everything that happened up to that point. He's like, she paid someone to come and rape you in your sleep so that your stepfather will be disappointed and chase you out of the house. But you did not. It didn't work, because even though you became pregnant, but God used that to take you out of her house to save your life. Because if you were still in that house, that coffin you saw, it wouldn't be the reality. So sometimes when things happen in your life, don't question God. Yeah. He has a purpose for it. He will allow it. He will allow it for a reason.
He doesn't want it to happen, but he allows it for a greater good.
Well, greater good. He will turn it for your greater good. So he allow it because this man said, I wanted to marry her, but just like Joseph, and she's pregnant. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't want to have anything to do with her. I don't. And I'm just go. I thought you said you loved me, even you. No problem. And she's laughing, calling me dreamer, calling me all sorts of names, and I'm in tears. But curiously, my stepbrother didn't mind. He said, "Are you still going to school?" That was his only question, and my answer was yes. No matter what, I'm going to finish my master, like I told you from my first year. I'm not giving up. He said, "Good, then we're settled." I thought you were going to say forget school and go and get married or go have children. I'm like, nope. And he said, well, when you deliver, I would look for someone to watch the baby here. When she heard that, oh God, imagine that you actually did this because you wanted her to leave your house. But then, not only that, he's willing to hire somebody to take care. And then she take the strategy, just like Cinderella, changing the deceitful and strategy to a different level. But God revealed to me and told me, leave this place now. And that was where I found myself in a room that was halfway there.
The crooked, yeah.
Because but I was much, much happier. Like, I have this peace that you can't explain. And that's why I said God has always been in the picture, even if we don't see him.
Pulling you through all of it.
Yes. Yeah. Throughout all your journey, he has always been there. No matter what happened to us, the enemy will always come up with strategy. But God always has a plan. Like, but fast forward 2009, and I remember before that, I had the opportunity to present itself for me to travel to America.
Right, because that was my next question. How'd you get here?
I came to her and then to her husband, and he was willing to help. He was trying to seek for help, and she called me dreamer, and told me to leave her house. And I went outside on the cold because she didn't want me to even sit on her couch and wait for my brother to come back. And I'm like, I forgive you because you don't know what you're doing. But then I'm like, that day I said, God, I didn't ask to go to America. If you want this to happen, make it happen. Make it happen. And I went home and grabbed my son. At that time, he was only 1 year old, and just hold him and say, son, one day when you grow up, I will show you this opportunity that your mom had, but nobody was willing to make the moves, the sacrifice required for this to happen. So only God that make this available can make it happen. But if it doesn't happen, hey, this is one opportunity lost. And I say that and just fold it and forget it. And then a year later, that's when I went with my brother, one of my stepbrother, who is friend with Serge at that time. And he's like, my sister actually had the opportunity to go to America, but none of us has the money, nobody. And Serge was like, in this country where people don't even have job, see people sitting along the street with bachelor in their pocket and they do call box, and you're here, have such a great opportunity instead of making everything you can to happen. How could you? And he said, well, I don't even want to have anything to do with her. Why? She's your sister. And he said, well, I'm going to make the meeting happen. You can meet her and decide for yourself. And then when I met him, it was this instant connection between us. I'm like, I wish he was my husband. I said that in my heart. And then he's sitting with his brother. And then they go, I think this one could be your wife. And then fast forward, and then I got back. I'm in that place where someone introduced me to Cry and Deliver me, and then and that was when my faith journey really, really began. The same people who were like, they didn't care if I live or exist, they all show up to that gentleman's house claiming that he's trying to take me away from them. They even lock him up. Can you imagine?
That's a Cinderella story.
Yeah, they lock him up.
Minus the shoe.
I call it Pastor Jean. They lock him up because of me. They say he's deceiving people. Oh God. And then 3 days, thank God there was another believer, someone who was a believer, a neighbor, who was also in the army, and she intervened and he was set free. But he's in Europe now. But at that time, imagine you being locked up because of one person.
Yeah.
They all show up. Okay, if you want, you can stay. We want your son. The same son, they never visit, they never even talk to me. We want your son. And I'm like, yeah, right. You don't want me, you want my child. How? How is that possible? And why are you all suddenly interested in my child all of a sudden? Because they saw that they couldn't get me because I had made up my mind. And even when I left the country, they didn't know. I didn't tell goodbye to any of them. They were all shocked later on that I left the country. And I even got married in city. Over there, it's mayor that signed the marriage. The
Mm-hmm.
wedding. It's not like the licensed person. It's the mayor.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, like we might have a justice of the peace or something over here that
Right.
does the legal.
At the courthouse.
Yeah, at the courthouse or
yeah,
something.
but over there it's the mayor, the city mayor that does that. So we went to America, Swan. We got married and traveled to America. Then I got here. At first, I went to Evangel, Protestant Evangel Church. My husband was not so cool with that. He's like, "You need to get out of that place." My mother.
Now, was he a Christian?
He's from a Catholic family.
Okay.
Okay.
His whole grandmother.
So he was trying to guide you
grandfather-
more intentionally to the
yeah.
Catholic
And
Church.
he's like, "You need to get out of that place." And then I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "I don't know. I don't feel comfortable every time I go to that place." But then eventually, I made up my mind. I really want to be baptized. So I approached whoever was the pastor then. He refused to baptize me. He claimed that I don't need to be baptized. I'm like, but... And I went home. I'm reading my Bible. I saw that before Jesus' ministry began, he got baptized. I'm like, so if I'm to follow Christ, then the first thing I should do is to be baptized and
Yes.
really follow his footsteps. Because from now on, I want to really live like him. I can't be like him. Definitely not. I already fell him many times. I commit all kinds of sins in the past. I lie. I fornicate. I did all these things. I don't think I can ever be like him. He's blemish, and I'm not. So that was what I said to myself. But I'm like, I'm going to try my best to follow his footsteps. And they refused to baptize me, and I'm like, well, then forget Evangel, forget Protestant. I'm looking for who's gonna baptize me because I feel like that's the next thing, right thing to do. And one of my brother-in-law, he introduced me to the church, Catholic church where he was going, which was like very close to us. Father Jacob Church, Guardian Angel.
Guardian Angel. Okay. Yeah.
So, and he decided one evening before the night before Easter.
Yeah.
He called me and said, "You know what, Maribelle, because up to that point, I'm still using Maribelle, which is the name that my mom gave me.
Yeah.
It's a French. It's a fruit. It's a name of
Yeah.
a fruit.
It's a plum.
Yeah.
Actually, Mirabelle is plum.
But I love
Beautiful.
that. It's a name that I love so much in Cameroon. I don't know why, especially at that time. They love it so much. And
I think it's a beautiful name, and I love plums. I always found it a great,
But then I'm
great
like,
name.
I want to do a spiritual journey, then I should do things that matches what I'm preaching or what I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
And that was why I changed to Maribelle, so we still be kind of close to what Mom gave me. Then, but then what really inspired me to baptize Catholic was the courage of Mary, because as I'm going through the Bible study before the first communion and confirmation, because I didn't know anything about Catholic Church, so I had to go through Bible study, follow Jim, make sure that he's like, I want you to go through the Catholic faith.
Yeah.
Learn about Catholic, learn about God, learn about Christ, and the whole history of Christianity before you baptize, so that you will know what you're actually going for.
Yeah.
So he waited for, we started in September, go through Bible study every Wednesday all the way to like right before Easter.
Wow.
And that time I was pregnant with Jessica. So he said, well, he called me and was like, you know what, I'm going to baptize tonight. Tonight? Okay. Well, you've been wanting to do this, right? I'm like, yes, of course. I've been wanting to do this since years ago, since I get my
I guess I'm ready. Right. Today.
So, yes,
Okay.
in 2015, and I got baptized in this.
Amen.
And then that was where my spiritual, should I say, eyes opened.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The grace of the sacrament
Absolutely.
changes
Then I
everything.
Now, the name Djoussi started now to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was when I started seeing things. Like, I can see things that will happen in 6 years from now, today. Like I told you, I saw you in the spiritual realm years back, but I didn't know what it meant. I even see myself on TV, but I didn't know what it meant. But now
Wow.
it makes sense. I even saw me talking to Steve Harvey, and I'm like, wow,
Steve
Harvey.
yeah, because he's a Christian. He's really
Yeah.
serious about his faith,
Sure.
and he was inspired by my story in the vision world. and he invited me to his show.
Has that happened yet?
Not
Yeah.
yet.
No.
But I'm like,
You got to get him on the podcast once
I'm
you
like,
talk to
There
Steve.
you
this
go.
is what I'm getting at is when I got baptized, it was another battle because that night, I saw two. When they said, when you give your life to Christ, every action you take, it has a spiritual implication. You
Yes.
don't see it, but it's actually happening. I saw two groups fighting for my soul. One side dressed with black hoodie on their head and like black robes and all that, and red thing tied to them around them, and the other side, they're dressed all white. They look very angelical. Wow. And they're singing to God. And the other one are pulling me. The one in the dark room are pulling me back to the room. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go back to that room. And then there was one that was singing to God. There were 12 of them. They said, she has made her decision. You must let her go. I'm like, what's her decision? One of them asked. She chose Christ this day forward. Let her be. And then he's like, no, she didn't. And she said, yes, she did. No, she didn't. Yes, she did. And they were fighting over my soul. Like, they were arguing about who. So they're like, okay, let's settle this. So bees came down from the sky to bite me. And I suddenly screamed, Jesus. Just like I would do in real life when I'm in danger. I always call the name of Jesus when I'm in danger ever since I gave my life to Christ.
Yeah.
I used to call the name of my late father.
Yeah.
Because that was what I was worshiping at that time.
Sure.
But when I gave my life to Christ, I changed that and I call Christ every time I feel like I'm in danger. Yeah. And I always get help. So when I did that, all of a sudden I saw a dove, a white dove coming from the sky, from the heaven or something, and eat the bee. And yep. Wow. And they're like, it's settled. I used to find out, and the one in the dark room, in the dark side, they just left. And I woke up like, praise Jesus. Yes. Yeah. That means my soul has been completely redeemed from the power of darkness.
Amen.
The enemy had no more power over me from this point forward. You can hold me with all my past sins and all that, but it will not. I know I lied to my landlord because I didn't have money, but now I'm new. I will not do that again. I will try my best to live the life that is honor God from this point on. And I was so happy when I woke up in the morning. Then Tuesday when I'm going to deliver, they said, they're like, no, we can't just lose like that. We need to take her out. So they use a car accident to try to eliminate. I'm in labor, going to a hospital to have a baby, and then the car just hit me.
You ended up in a car accident?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And that just hit me from nowhere. I'm like, but our car spin around 3 times before coming to a full stop. But then the only thing I got hurt was a little strain to my back because you're pregnant. I mean, your back is.
And your baby was okay too.
The baby was
right?
okay.
Yeah.
No scratch, nothing. But then the other car was completely smashed. Like, completely smashed. When I got to Norton, and they're like, girl, there are angels watching over you.
And you're like, I know.
I know.
Amen.
And
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's a
I know.
sacramental grace.
And when I told Father Lejeune, he's like, I don't know, maybe that's why I was pushed to baptize you 2 weeks ago. I don't know why, but I just feel like we should do it at that time. I'm like, there's a time for everything.
Wow.
So
this is my faith journey.
Praise the Lord
Praise
for
God.
you and all of what God has done in your life. What a powerful story. My gosh.
Yeah, thank
And there's
you for
more to
sharing.
come, I know.
Yeah, thank you for being on. Thank you for sharing, Maribelle. It's been a blessing and a privilege to have
Absolutely.
you on.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Well, thank you all too for watching on Spirit and Spire. We'll catch you next time. Have a great evening.